Great. So, hi, I'm Jenny. So I'm a freelance software engineer, and I first gave this talk September 2019, just before I started my master's degree. So I haven't been able to edit it very much because I've been super busy, but I'm hoping it's still as good, and I actually hope I do a bit of a better job this time. So without further ado, here we go. So getting ready for the quantum world. So over the years, many methods have been used to hide information from prying eyes. These methods generally turn information into unreadable code. That's all cryptography is, the art of writing or solving of codes. In cryptography, information is changed into an unreadable format, so it cannot be read by anybody but the intended receiver. The receiver will have a key in the form of instructions of how to unscramble the information to reveal the message. The world is full of curiosity, people who want to uncover secrets, for thirst of knowledge, political advantages, and the thing that sadly makes the world go round, money. For many of you, I imagine a specific word came to mind, hacker. Am I right? There are people out there looking to uncover these hidden messages. The security industry needs to involve the encryption methods they use, as old encryption methods become vulnerable to exploitation. We are at the beginning of a significant evolution in cryptography, one for the history books. We need to get ready for the quantum world. There are two traditional types of encryption: symmetrical, which uses one key to encrypt and decrypt a secret message, and asymmetric encryption, which uses one key to encrypt and a second different key to decrypt the secret message. Asymmetric encryption came about as a solution to a problem in symmetrical encryption, which I'll touch on later. So just as quantum key distribution has come about to solve a problem in asymmetric encryption, a problem ironically caused by quantum computing. Symmetric encryption uses the same one key to encrypt and decrypt messages. This requires something called a key exchange, resulting in both persons having the same key that they can use to encrypt and decrypt the information. The key turns the information into an unreadable form for transit, and once it's received, it can be decrypted and read. There are two types of symmetric encryption: block algorithms, where information is sent in blocks and held in memory until the whole message has been sent, when it is then decrypted, and stream algorithms, where data is sent in stream and so does not need to be held in memory. Symmetric cryptography has been replaced by asymmetric cryptography in many scenarios. However, it's still used for payment transactions, proving that the sender of a message is who they say they are, and random number generating. Encryption can be traced back to the Roman era, where Julius Caesar used a shift cipher, where each digit in a message is shifted by a set number in a set direction, as you can see on the screen. The number and direction are the key, which only the recipient would know. With this key, they can take the encrypted message and shift it back by the set number in the opposite direction to reveal the secret message. Another example of symmetric encryption is the Enigma machine, which was used by the Germans to send secret messages during World War II. It uses a method of encryption called a polyalphabetic substitution cipher. This is a cipher that uses multiple alphabets, where one letter is substituted for another letter, which is then substituted for another, and so on. The bomb machine was built to crack the Enigma code. It followed up on the work of Polish mathematicians and was successfully created by Alan Turing and fellow codebreaker Gordon Welshman at Bletchley Park in the United Kingdom. Bombs were 7 foot wide, 6 foot tall, and weighed a literal ton. The Turing bomb was made up of the equivalent of 36 Enigma machines and created the exact internal wiring of the German Enigma. The bomb worked by checking almost 20,000 possible positions before finding a match for each letter. As Arthur Conan Doyle said, when you've excluded the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. During World War II, 211 bomb machines were made and used simultaneously, non-stop, to attempt to crack the Germans' code. The bomb had one addition to its program. Compared to the Polish version it was modeled on, it used logic, human logic. This is where common sense comes into the equation. The Enigma machine encoded information in a way that letters could be encrypted as any letter other than themselves. By taking this into account, it was possible to reduce the possible results exponentially. Even more so, if there was a word or phrase used multiple times a day or even in every message, this could massively speed up the cracking of the code. Well, how about this phrase, Heil Hitler? Every message the Germans sent ended in Heil Hitler, a human error which meant that Turing and his team at Bletchley Park were able to crack the code. Asymmetric encryption uses two different keys, one private and one public. It came about as a solution to the issue associated with key exchange. Key exchange can be difficult, insecure, and even impossible at times. Asymmetric encryption uses mathematical number relationships, which mean that information can be encrypted with one key and decrypted with another. Here's two visualizations for that. I couldn't pick between them, so I used both. It's very quick and fast to unravel a toilet roll. However, it would take much, much longer to roll it back up. One common encryption method, and I have a note in the script that I used it the day before I first gave this talk. So I was setting up my GitLab account for the first time at university when I started my master's degree. And I used an RSA algorithm to connect to it using SSH. So it's quite cool. I used it the day before I gave the talk, yeah. So RSA uses the premise that it's difficult to factorize a large number to keep information secure. So I'll repeat that. It's difficult to factorize a large number to keep information secure on a regular computer, and that is how an RSA algorithm works. When generating a key pair, two numbers where one number is the multiplication of two large prime numbers are multiplied together to get the public key, and the same two prime numbers are used to create the private key. This means that anybody can factorize a large prime number. This means that if anybody can factorize a large prime number, the information stored with RSA would be insecure. Linear computers would take years to factorize a large number. In fact, DigiCert estimated that it would take longer than the age of the universe so far back to break a DigiCert 2048-bit SSL certificate using RSA. And I actually remember a bit of a storm on Twitter when I said that. People disagreed with me and got very argumentative in a thread on Twitter, so that was quite funny. But they estimated the universe to be over 13.76 billion years old. So it would take that much time for a 2048-bit SSL certificate using RSA to be factorized. So what if there is a way to factorize a large number that's much faster than this? So I'll get onto that in the next slide, but first I want to talk about elliptic curve cryptography. Unlike RSA, I'm not sure of the maths behind this, and that was 2 years ago, and I still haven't had time to really look into it. But I know it's been covered in a talk, and so I originally gave this talk at BSides. So it has been covered in a talk at BSides London in 2015, which was a large talk, so just on the one topic. So if anyone's interested in that, find the 2015 BSides London talk for elliptic curve cryptography. So what I can say is that it relies on the difficulty of computing discrete logarithms in groups of points on an elliptic curve defined over a finite field. So that's to quote Microsoft Cloud blogs. So what if I told you there was a way to compute discrete logarithms in groups of points in an elliptic curve defined over a finite field that would take much less time? Well, soon they will be. First of all, what is a quantum computer? A quantum computer is a computer which stores information using quantum states of subatomic particles. They're going to revolutionize the encryption world as it is. So a quantum computer stores data in qubits, which is the equivalent of linear computer bits. These qubits represent ones or zeros depending on their quantum properties, polarization, phase, or position. Matter acts differently at the quantum level. Due to a phenomenon called superposition, qubits can denote 1 and 0 simultaneously. This could be visualized as a penny on its edge side, not up heads or tails, or on a graph with 1 and 0 at the axis. A qubit in superposition could be a vector of the two, just the same as velocity being a vector of speed and direction. Another visualization used for superposition is Schrödinger's cat. Erwin Schrödinger devised a hypothetical experiment in 1935, where a cat is sealed in a box with a vial of poison, a hammer, and a radioactive material, and a Geiger counter. The radioactive material had a 50-50 chance of being detected over the course of an hour, and should it be detected, the hammer would smash the vial of poison and kill the cat. Without opening the box, it was impossible to know if the cat was dead or alive. While it's impossible for a cat to be in superposition, it's a good way to visualize it, don't you think? Another vector in the quantum world is space-time. So if anyone's been to a Brian Cox lecture, they probably know all about this. So space-time is a mathematical model that fuses the 3 dimensions of space and 1 dimension of time into a single 4-dimension continuum. Sounds impossible, right? Like something from Star Trek? Well, yes. But if you look at some modern inventions, mobile phones, tablets, touchscreens, these all originally existed as ideas in science fiction. What if I told you there was actually a way to travel faster than light? The Alcubierre drive is a warp drive, essentially, for those of you who are aware of the idea in sci-fi. It works by creating a warp bubble in which the spacecraft would ride through space-time like a wave. The space ahead of the spacecraft would contract while the space behind it expands. It's essentially the matter of the universe moving and not the spacecraft itself. What does this have to do with this talk? To me, everything, because I understood space-time before I understood superposition and even before I learned to code. It's a perfect example of how matter acts differently in quantum space, and it also really helped in my understanding of superposition, as vectors can be very difficult to imagine. So if this helps anyone understand vectors, then great. If not, I'm sure this slide has been interesting enough that you don't mind the detour from quantum cryptography. The phenomenon of entanglements bind the density of quantity of different particles together. This means that something that happens to one will happen to all of them. This means that while linear computers iterate through small sums until they get success, quantum computers can consider all permutations of all possible numbers simultaneously. So how does this affect the current encryption methods? Shor's algorithm uses entanglement to break RSA and ECC fast. Well, a lot faster than a linear computer could. So here's a quote: "Nation states trying to spy on people don't have to intercept communications and decrypt them immediately. They can store that data and stockpile it because storage is cheap." So this means that large nation states are hacking into each other, and rather than trying to decrypt and understand what the other is storing, they're just stealing the encrypted data as it is, and they plan to decrypt it in the future when quantum computers are a thing. So they're stockpiling it, which is absolutely terrifying. So, there's a threat to historical encrypted information because it can be decrypted in the future. So hash functions, which are used to hash a password, to protect a password, will be much more difficult to crack using a quantum computer. However, just like asymmetrical encryption, the maths to break them paired with the theory of a quantum computer makes it possible. While Shor's algorithm breaks asymmetrical encryption, Grosvenor's algorithm breaks hashing. However, we have a much longer time to come up with a replacement for hashing. Cryptocurrencies are going to be affected by the quantum computers, but not in the way people suspect. Cryptocurrency allows for transactions to be made where the sender and receiver of the information can stay anonymous. This won't change. What will change is the security surrounding crypto wallets. Crypto wallets that use public-private key encryption to secure their information will become vulnerable to cracking by quantum computing. This means that illegitimate transactions could be carried out should a wallet be hacked, as long as there are sufficient funds in the wallet. This is made worse by the fact that these illegitimate transactions can't be traced. So to recap so far, current encryption methods are vulnerable to the possibilities that arise with the development of quantum computing. This means that information secured with asymmetric encryption will become insecure and a different encryption method will be needed. The development of quantum computing means that an idea called quantum key distribution should be about by the time encryption methods such as RSA need replacing. The Centre of Quantum Technology shared a fantastic video of it on YouTube, which I'll show you in a minute. And it doesn't have sound, but it perfectly depicts what I'm about to explain. So the BB84 protocol is a type of quantum key distribution that relies on quantum computing. It uses the quantum property of polarization to create a key that can be used to encrypt and decrypt information. The quantum property polarization is one you should already be familiar with. Think of Polaroid glasses, windscreens on cars, and the awkward moment when you have your glasses polarized in the opposite way to your windscreen and you can't see anything. So here's a video, and I used to be able to say what I've written perfectly so it fits with it, so I hope I actually managed to, but I might not be able to. So light particles, known as photons, are emitted polarized by a Polaroid filter. The light is polarized one of two ways: at 0 degrees, which is horizontal from ceiling to sky, which is ceiling to sky, or 45 degrees, which is half of a right angle. If the polarization's Bob's reading from Alice, I think I need to wait till the next section for this bit. So as you can see, it's that way or that way. Okay, so if the polarizations Bob's reading from Alice are the same, the result is that he's getting from his own. He keeps the quibbit, so that's what you just saw drop down, otherwise he discards it. This method is secure because of the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which states that it's impossible to measure both the position and momentum of a quantum state exactly. This means that while Alice and Bob know which results to remove, Eve does not. Also, by attempting to read the quantum state of the photon, Eve would actually change the state of it, meaning that there's a random error in the message. This error would let Bob know that someone has attempted to eavesdrop on his and Alice's data transmission. If the message is still readable with the errors, then there's no need to rerun the quantum key generator. If it is unreadable, the process would be repeated and the data would be encrypted and sent again. So there we are. So that's it, checking the error rate to see if it's going to generate a new key or proceed. Okay. So as you can see, it takes, sorry. So as you can see from the numbers on there, it takes 6,680 qubits to use Grosvenor's algorithm to break AES 256. So 6,600. At the moment, IBM are testing a 50 qubit machine. Intel has a 49 qubit machine and Google has a 72 qubit machine. So I haven't updated these figures. These are around 2 years old, but I don't think they're anywhere near 6,000 yet. So encryption isn't broken yet, no, but it's going to take decades for it to need to be replaced. But it's definitely something that's going to happen in the future. So while the industry doesn't have to worry about switching over in the next 8 to 10 years, according to the register, so that was 10 years, 2 years ago. 10 years isn't a large amount of time in tech. One thing I've noticed about the tech industry is that people fall in love with technology from the past and struggle to let go despite maintenance and security issues this may cause. The change to quantum is one of the most significant changes in the history of technology in my eyes, and it's one we can't ignore. It's going to break everything we know and understand, and while we're going to have to relearn physics, rewrite code, and re-encrypt information that we thought was secure, resistant change is futile, and once we enter the quantum age, prime number-based encryption methods will be too. The 21st century is when everything changes, and we've got to be ready. And if anyone gets that quote, I love you. So welcome to the quantum age. Any questions?
Wow, we definitely have questions. I like how you ended with like resistance is futile. I do agree with you. We know it's coming and we should actually be more proactive towards that. I think one of the first questions is, I first heard about quantum computers back in one of my dad's PC format magazines when I was a teenager. Do we appear to be getting any closer? I mean, it doesn't seem like from what you said, but how far or how close are we getting?
So I actually almost decided to do, it was one of my options after my master's degree was to maybe do a PhD. Mm-hmm. And I'd looked into, so the university was doing research into quantum control, because while it's possible to make these quantum computers, there's actually no solid foundation on how to control them and make them do what we want them to do at the moment. So even if we had this really powerful computer, we don't actually have a way to get it to do what we want. And that looked like some really interesting research. For quite a few reasons, I decided not to do that PhD. I do want to go into crypto research when I'm older, and I'm hoping that by then there's going to be a lot more exciting stuff going on. So I'll jump in later.
At that point.
Yeah. I do have gather time down here for any questions in there, but I can.
Yeah, I think someone is taking them from Gather Town and putting them here. There is a question around the CIA. So if we know eventually everything will be decryptable, can the CIA not record everything encrypted now? And when quantum computers are around, they can just decrypt it all. And you kind of briefly touched on kind of historic encrypted information and what's going to happen to it. But
so CIA is in the American government?
Yes, I'd assume so.
I don't think there's any way to stop the governments collecting everyone's data. All the governments are hacking each other. They all know everything about each other. You know, even allied governments are hacking each other.
Yeah.
Just so they have something against each other in case anything happens. That there isn't a way to stop it happening. It's just something that happens. From a personal point of view, we can just make sure that things that we're okay with the world knowing is online. Mm-hmm. Anything that is personal that you wouldn't want anybody knowing, it doesn't get digitized.
Yeah.
You know, I was at the age where I had Facebook at 13 and I wasn't taught anything about privacy or anything. So all of my details are out there, and I've kind of worked on that in that I've just built a profile around it, and I don't mind that. I share to help others. But if anybody wants to be anonymous, they want to secure themselves, the best thing is just not to have anything online at all.
Yeah.
Only put the things online that you're okay with the world seeing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. There is a question about what is your favorite encryption method nowadays?
So I'll go back to what I said about people falling in love with technologies for no reason. So my first bit of coding I ever did was in third year of my undergraduate degree, where we were doing a cryptography module and we had to write some algorithms. So we had to do the modulus, recursive and iterative. Then we had to do greatest common denominator and work our way up to doing an RSA algorithm and a cipher blockchain. And God, looking at that code now, it was awful, but I wrote that in Python. So my favorite is RSA because I wrote it myself in my undergraduate, and it's the first piece of actual code I wrote. So I've got a
attachment.
got an attachment to that. However, my partner is a sysadmin, so I do often ask him if I'm on a specific platform, I ask him what's the best thing for that. Because it's what's used in industry, you know, because just because I have an information security degree, but that doesn't mean anything in comparison to someone who actually works in industry and uses these encryption algorithms on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Perfect. We've got 2 more questions, but we are running quite tight on time. So feel free to kind of reach out on GatherTown personally to Jenny to ask your questions again. I'm pretty sure she'll be more than happy to answer all your doubts.
I do need to make another account on it though, because it's locked me out.
Okay. I'm pretty sure either myself or someone can help you with that. Otherwise, we'll just send you the emails, the questions, sorry.
Oh no, I'm just on this screen. So I just need to make a new person.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much, Jenny, for your time. Thank you so much. I think a lot of mine were definitely blown out by your talk. And I really like the graphic with Alice and Bob. It made it a little bit more understandable.
Thank you.